Hi, good evening, everyone. Welcome to this April, what's today's date? April 6th. Thank you very much. It's a regularly scheduled school board meeting. As always, we begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. Start with that, audience.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, first item on the agenda, as always, board comments and committee updates. Are there any committee updates or comments from the board?
Todd and I had the opportunity to visit with the student council at the high school on Monday to kind of discuss how we could create the student representative on the board's role a little bit more active. There's some ideas tossed around, and basically we asked them to take a look at the policy and make the edits that they would like to bring forward, and then at our next policy meeting they'll have some representatives there to kind of talk through what they thought they'd be comfortable with and jot down the policy, and then of course Phil and Todd and I will then look at the policy and hopefully bring it forward to you guys here later on. And then we had a policy meeting, just the three of us, last week, and there's nothing really big to discuss. Did I miss anything?
I mean, I would just add, and I wasn't at the Monday meeting, but that the discussion at the policy committee was how do we, it's nothing about anything about like the awesome job that has done as a student rep. It's more of how do we give like students a greater voice in policy.
Yeah, it's really cool that you guys went down there and shared that with them and asked for their input. I think that sets a nice step in the right direction.
I think it was
a nice tone.
I think it was the first time in a while in a conversation like that to take it. I mean, obviously in your time, it must be the only time. So.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Any other comments, updates? No? All right, moving along. First presentation we have is the NSSA
And let's move to the next
contract
meeting.
which we're going to move to the next meeting, which is the 20th.
It was scheduling conflict with the team. We want them all here to
Oh, you emailed me about that and I forgot. And now we have Lila with a student representative report.
Of course. Our environmental team is working with wild canid ecologist Chris Shadler to bring her program on the real eastern coyote to our high school students in honor of Earth Day. I've seen her speak before, and it is really such a unique and engaging opportunity that we're bringing to Newmarket. Net Zero is also working with the Student Council to organize a joint Earth Week and Spring Spirit Week starting on the 17th. Activities will include environmental sign upcycling, tie-dyeing, dress-up days, egg tosses, and much more. Our improv club is starting their spring season next week and hopes to hold their show at the end of May. And then in athletic news, our varsity softball team has their first game this upcoming Tuesday at 4 o'clock in Portsmouth. Our varsity baseball team has played a couple of great scrimmages, but their first official game is this upcoming Monday at 4 o'clock in Portsmouth. And finally, our track and field team is off to the races with a great start to the season and record high enrollment. Thanks to the generosity of the Oyster River team, they get to practice a few days a week on a real track, which I've heard the runners are very excited about. Their first meet is in Pelham at 10 o'clock on the 15th. That's all I have for this week.
Super, thank you very much. And we have the superintendent report.
Well, thank you. I just have a couple of things I wanted to share. One of the things I haven't reported on in a long time, and it's kind of good that I haven't, is COVID. I was just reviewing our data most recently. We've had multiple weeks in a row of 0 cases in the schools, which is just really great. I can't tell you that we haven't had colds and all these other things that the world has, but COVID as a factor has really, it's been a very small factor here. A lot of people may remember coming off vacations, they always, the concern that people are traveling and there might be an uptick in it. We did not experience any significant uptick after the break. In fact, the elementary school, they're going on 4 straight weeks with 0 cases. The high school had 3 straight weeks of 0. There's a couple right now, but it's not a major concern. So I just wanted to acknowledge that and say we're in a very good place. I think life in the normal realm has been working out for us, and we'll keep doing that. And again, always thank you to Jen Farnese and Diane McCormick for all the hard work they do to stay on top of things and monitor things, and they're the ones that track the data and all that stuff. So That's all. So it's not something we talk about a lot these days, but I think it's worth pointing out. So I just wanted to mention that to everybody. The other thing, last time you may recall, I told you about the very exciting disproportionate data report that we got. That was the clean letter. Well, I have, on a similar kind of situation, we are audited every year by the New Hampshire Department of Ed for our student services program. And the goal is to get what they call a meets requirements. That's kind of what you're shooting for. I got my letter yesterday. It tells that the Newmarket school system meets all requirements for our student services program. What that means is that all of the legal requirements, all the services we do, all the reporting we're doing is being done well and done right. And so congratulations to Erica McNeil and her department for great work on that. I think it speaks well of the department and their attention to detail. So that's all I have.
Awesome, great. Yeah, you're absolutely right. We do have some amazing people helping us get our work done every day. And actually, we're going to go back to you for 2 presentations.
Sure.
Hiring process.
Yeah, the first one, I have gotten some questions. I'm sure many people, and there's a memo to this effect in your packet, by the way, if you haven't seen it, just kind of outlining it. But I've gotten a number of questions around the hiring processes that we are involved in with our 2 assistant principal, my apologies. Thought I had that turned off. The 2 assistant principal processes we're going through, so I thought it was worth just taking a few minutes to just kind of explain to you kind of how the process is playing out. In neither case, obviously, we're not bringing a nominee forward. At this meeting, we're not ready to make a nominee, but I thought it would be worthy of just kind of running through things with you so you could see the whole picture. Really, the way the process began, actually, it began when we hired the HR consultant back in the winter. In January, Norm O'Neill began working with both Sean and Andy around taking a look at the job descriptions in the 2 offices and taking a look at certainly the administrative functions, but all the other support functions as well, and begin to take a look at that. Out of that came the job descriptions for which we used to create the ads and to promote the particular skills and traits that we were looking for from our assistant principals. It allowed us, by having a refined job description, to be more specific about what we were looking for when we advertised. And so it worked in our favor in that people with those skill sets really saw those ads and jumped on it. So that was really the first step. And it's important to note that while we have assistant principals in both buildings, the role of a high school assistant principal is slightly different than that of an elementary school assistant principal, so the kinds of things you want in those functions is slightly different. At the elementary level, really, we've identified instructional leadership and curriculum and literacy experience and knowledge as being key components to the role. At the junior senior high, the role, we're looking much more for a broader operational person who has experience managing a building, supervising staff, and also facilitating NEASC work and that kind of thing. So it's slightly different, but very similar positions. So that was a starting point. From there, obviously, we advertised. We really try to advertise as widely and broadly as we possibly can. We post on Apple Track, which is the online portal that we use to take applications. We put it on the district website. We use EdJobs New Hampshire. We use SchoolSpring. EdJobs New Hampshire is the one that, for the most part, New Hampshire people look to. So that's generally where most of the New Hampshire candidates come from. SchoolSpring is more of a national thing. So we have noted an uptick in people from places like Colorado and Georgia and Minnesota applying. So there's more of an outside of New Hampshire vibe there sometimes. So we have had a number of candidates from various places coming there. Obviously, when you're trying to get a pool of candidates, you want to make sure you get the best possible candidates you can get. And as I think I noted to you the last meeting, we did have 59 applicants for the elementary position. Obviously, the posting for the high school position has only been up a week, and we've got I think 27 as of today. So I anticipate being in a number similar to that, because the deadline is next Friday the 14th. Once we finished with applications, we had a screening team that would be myself, Patty Wands, Erica McNeil, and the building administrators of that building. We went through the pool with the job description in mind, identified all the candidates that we thought fit, or the candidates we thought best fit that description. And all of those candidates were then put through what we called it a screening interview. It was really a Zoom meeting with the principal in the elementary. It was Sean Pine and Christina Cochran. They interviewed them broadly about their experience, gave them a little chance to get to know them, also gave the candidates a chance to ask questions to determine if they truly ultimately were interested in the Newmarket role. Out of that, we identified a pool to then bring forth to interview with a broad search committee. And the search committee is at the elementary represented every grade level, each department, and so forth. So it's a committee of 7 or 8 staff, along with Sean and Christina that are doing interviews. In fact, they're in the middle of interviews this afternoon, so they're interviewing multiple candidates today. Got a marathon session going on to do that. Once they complete that, the committee's job is to rank the candidates they've interviewed, and with the idea of trying to identify 2 or 3 that we feel are the candidates that we want to bring forward for a more intimate experience. In other words, to bring them to a staff meeting and have them actually introduce themselves to staff, give all staff an opportunity to meet them, ask whatever questions are on their mind, and then there'll be like a rating sheet that staff can then hand in saying, I like this candidate, I like that candidate, and so forth. After all of that information is taken in, we would then decide if we're ready to nominate from that pool. Assuming one of the candidates that were brought forth in that final 2 or 3 is suitable, then we would bring that forward for nomination. If for some reason we determined at that point that either there was no candidate available or the candidate that we wanted did not want the job, once we got to that point, we then go back to the pool of however many and we start again. And we do the same process until we get the candidate we're looking for. So really, I think the question I've been getting a lot, and I've talked to a number of people who are kind of monitoring the process, if you will. The question I get a lot is, when will we hear if we're in the pool? Well, when we're done, when the process is over, because until we have hired somebody, until I've brought a name to you and that's the person that we've approved, the pool is still live. It continues. So that process is what we're currently in the middle of with the elementary school. Obviously, the junior senior high process, it'll close next Friday, and we'll do a similar process, and it will probably be, my hope is that we'll have a nominee for the elementary position for the April 20th meeting. If out of the people we're interviewing, somebody in that pool meets those requirements. My hope for the junior senior high position is that it would be probably the 2nd meeting in May that we would be coming forward with a nominee for you. So that's the process. I think one of the things we really have tried to do is to really do our homework, make sure we know what we want, what we're looking for. I go back to the salary study that we did. We are able to advertise with a salary range that I think is competitive, and I think it's causing more people to take a closer look at Newmarket as a place to come work. And so, you know, obviously the proof is in the results. When we finally get a candidate, we bring it forward. But I feel very good that we're getting a good pool of candidates, that we are thinking about it carefully and trying to make sure that the people we get are people that are going to really help move both schools forward, be part of a leadership team, hopefully for, I keep talking to people, I've got to keep people together for at least 5 years to really see positive gain. And so looking for people who are ready to make that kind of a commitment. So I'd be happy to answer any questions about the hiring process.
I have a question on number 3 on your memo. So you mentioned that Sean Pine and Christina Cochran are screening right now?
Well, they are part of the facilitating the staff committee that's interviewing they're on basically step.
What step are they on?
They're on step 5.
Oh, okay. So I just didn't know in step 3, was is it just
So
two people?
Step 3, the people who did the screening were myself,
Okay,
Erica McNeil, Patty Wands, and in the case of the elementary school, it was Sean Pine and Christina Cochran. Obviously, when we get to the doing it with the junior senior high, it'll be Andy, Jean Civiello, and probably Jody Callanan, the
Okay.
counseling director,
okay,
and Jamie Hayes too, the athletic director.
okay. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Sorry. So, I know they're meeting with building. At any point outside of, like, yourself, are they talking to district staff?
I'm just not sure I'm following, what do you,
Sorry, so they're talking to building leadership and staff here. Like, are they talking to people that are, like, at the SAU level?
yes, actually, I kind of glossed over that pretty rapidly. The final stage, with it's a twofold process, where this, at the same time that the candidates are coming in to do the meet and greet with staff, opposite that, Patty Wands, Erica, and I will
That's- okay.
take them one at a time and interview them ourselves. So we'll have like a 30-minute opportunity to meet them and interview them too. So that, because in the end, I have to be comfortable with who we're bringing forward. That being said, an assistant principal at the building level is really an assistant to the principal, and it's really important that it be someone who matches the principal's style and need.
Yeah, I'm totally not trying to undercut the building leadership as much as, like, there's a unique perspective, I think, that
Yeah.
y'all would have.
Yeah, and the other thing I've been told it's not been done in this district before is the meet and greet with staff, so that every staff member has an opportunity to meet the 3, what are perceived to be the 3 best candidates and give input. Doesn't mean everybody gets what they want, but it does mean that there's a point in the process before somebody's nominated where people can come in and say, yes or no, these candidates are who I want or not.
I just want to say thank you for, having a very purposeful, job posting and a very purposeful process, so we end up getting what ultimately is best for the schools and the students. So it's nice to see the process.
Thank you.
All right. Back to you, Todd. for
Okay, the next one is
contract
actually
renewal.
pretty simple because it'll come up in approvals later on. Tonight you are being given all of the renewals of continuing contract as well as probationary teachers. We have, I believe, 107
My wrist is starting to hurt thinking about signing one of these.
candidates that are coming forward. Just to remind everybody that there are various contractual as well as professional growth plan, as well as legal requirements with dealing with contract renewals. Locally, all probationary teachers, those are people who have not received continuing contract status, which means they've served 5 or more years in a district. You can conceivably do, if you already get tenure in another district, it's 3 years once you move to a new district. Okay, so all of those people who are under that probationary status have been supervised the way that they needed to be. Summative evaluations were completed and delivered to them prior to the deadline, which is March 31. So all of them have had the full evaluation cycle, and then those candidates that we're bringing forth for renewal are obviously there. The other legal date to keep in mind is April 15th, and that comes from state law. So all teachers have to be notified of their contract status by April 15th. And so obviously, April 6th, which is tonight, is our last meeting before the 15th. So we can't delay action on these. So anyway, I'm very excited to recommend the 107 candidates that are there. I think it speaks well of our district. We've got a lot of great teachers out there, and so when you get to the point of approvals, I just thank you for that.
Any questions or discussions on contract renewals?
I just have a quick question. On the graph for the contract list?
Yep.
Just on the steps, I'm not familiar with their steps. So when it says 15, does that mean they've been here 15 years?
Now,
It doesn't. I didn't
the
think
way the contract is started, they have, the maximum you can get to is 15. 15
Okay.
is the top step. So once you reach step 15, that's when the various other longevity provisions in the contract kick in. So yeah, so most of the teachers that are there as step 15 have many more than 15 years of experience. In
That's
fact,
what I
some of
thought.
them
I mean, because
25,
I know some of
30,
these
yeah.
teachers have been
Yeah,
there a
well,
while,
yeah,
but I
yeah.
didn't. I
We
should
didn't want to
probably
give
look
the
at the
exact
steps.
number because it might give away people's age.
The-
Quickly, so current track slash position, what?
Okay, what that,
Explain what those-
so basically, the salary scale, there is a salary track, which is based on your credential. So there's a track for bachelor's, there's a track for bachelor's 30, master's 15, and master's 30. So if you can imagine a graph, you move from left to right on those. Each column then has 15 steps on it. So if you're a first-year bachelor's teacher, you're BA step 1. If you're a 10th year master's teacher, you're MA step 6. So if you've been here 15 or more years and you're at the top, MA 30 is the highest you can go. MA 30 step 15 is the highest step that you can get to on our track and step.
designates additional.
Correct. 30, the number of plus 30 is credits beyond your bachelor's degree. So typically, many teachers are either working towards another degree or at least another set of training. So every college course you take is generally 3 or 4 credits. So to move from BA to BA 30, you basically need the equivalent of 30 college credits to move you to the right.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
It's more of a process question, that given state law, since it has to be by April 15th, is there any way, maybe this gets to the calendar and whatnot, we could ensure that the board is seeing the nominations 2 meetings before that, so it isn't just like, this is the last meeting to do it? Like, is there any reason why that couldn't work?
Well, I practically speaking, it's the supervision process that has to be concluded. And while I would love to say to you, yeah, we could do it earlier than that, I would hear the loud screams of pain from my building administrative team.
Well, I guess that question too, why? Because basically we don't have any authority to hire or not hire these people. If all the authority lies with the superintendent, and we do have to approve them.
I mean,
We're
I
not the
think-
hiring agent?
We're not the hiring agent. If we have to approve them,
We
we're
approve
not a
them, but
ministerial
but
board. We actually have authority
Yeah,
and
we do have authority,
responsibility.
but we don't have authority to hire or not hire.
So to answer your question, the reason that would make that challenging for continuing contract or tenured teachers, that's easy.
Right.
We have 31 probationary teachers, though, that are in our system. And so the cycle has to be concluded before you then move them along. So it does take a lot of, I mean, this year we were able to finish all of the summatives with all of our probationary teachers by, I believe, March 24th, I was stunned that we were able to get that done because that's the challenge. But that still would have put us, this meeting is about as early as we could get them to you. I can certainly try, and if we can do it. In fact, there actually is a committee that is looking at the teacher evaluation model, and maybe there will be something looked at in there that might make it more efficient for management. But to do the supervision process well, there's a lot of I's to dot, T's
Yeah.
to cross, conversations to have.
So practically, like philosophically, like, I'm not a huge fan of getting something at a meeting and being like, you have to approve at this meeting. There's no choice.
No, I don't disagree with you.
That's the 2 meeting thing. That's why I'm like, so that's philosophically, just being told,
Philosophically, I
if
can
you don't do it
understand
this
that.
meeting, then we're in like legal trouble. That just feels like backed in a position that doesn't feel like it affords us the opportunity to necessarily thoughtfully approach it. To get to your point,
Yeah.
like, I recognize hiring is there. So I think we need clarity as to like what in the world we're doing when we're voting on this. Because
Sure.
if we're just being told you don't have authority to do it, you just got to support, like, then what are we doing? Why even vote on it? Makes no sense to me. Like, we should, if we're gonna vote
Yeah.
on something, there should be a reason, some space we have there.
The issue, I mean, again, I know we're having a conceptual conversation, and there's no
Yeah.
real threat of it.
No, absolutely.
We could issue state, what do you call pink slips to
No, I
everybody.
don't want to get into that.
So,
yeah.
so you basically just have to notify people by that date, and so if we don't officially renew them, I can't issue contracts. So that's where the 15th comes into play. So at this point, if there are any concerns, and I'm not suggesting there are, we could delay, but it would lead to what would be a very negative.
And that's why I brought Abe, like, I'm much
and
more
that's what I'm
looking
trying
at, as we look at the calendar for next year, like, tenured
Yep.
teachers, ones that, like, I know there's the 31 probation, but you've got over 100 that are, like, already, like, there. It's like, we could have voted on them last meeting.
Yeah, and actually, maybe
Practically
that's the way.
speaking, I'm trying to think of a scenario when we would be like, well, I don't like that particular teacher. I want you to review them.
Which gets to my second point.
Yeah.
Like,
Right.
what is our role
Bring
here?
that up.
What in the
Yeah.
world is our role?
It's a weirdness because
Kind of
technically
blurry.
speaking, according to and I'd have to look at the RSA, but it is possible for us to fire somebody, but you to maintain them
Well, you have to keep in
unpaid
mind.
in the position. I think there's an oddity.
I'm
of
not,
it,
I'm not
and
trying, I don't want to start anything.
No, no, no,
I
I
have
agree
no
with you.
argument here. It's
I
much
agree
more
with you.
like,
No.
we're
Yeah,
doing
here,
something.
yeah.
There should be a reason why we're doing it.
I mean, certainly
the
I
state.
could,
There is an oddity
No.
in this position. Yeah, you're
Yeah,
absolutely right.
and it is a New Hampshire thing, because like talking to people I know in the surrounding states, never does an appointee go before the board unless it's directly an administrative position. Like when I came to Virginia, and I was like, who do I have to like ultimately show up to? About the evaluation part, I can tell you on the teacher's end, when I was probationary, the amount, like the self-evaluation and the write-up takes time. I mean, sometimes you have to get evidence or whatever, and it's just like a perfect culmination of events, because you're coming out of the February break, you probably had snow days, you're at the end of the quarter, and then on top of that, you're probably getting your last evaluation, because I think at a minimum it's usually 5 or 6 over the course of the year, until like the week before your self-evaluation's done. So it's just perfect intersection of stuff.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
Maybe this
so, like,
is a good place for the New Hampshire School Board Association.
Yeah.
Maybe come
well, I
in
know,
and
you know,
give us some feedback.
Absolutely,
on that.
right? Like, how
Yeah.
do other school boards handle it? How do they like? And
Yeah.
frankly, is it RSA or Ed Rule that requires the
this
person?
is an RSA.
Yeah. See, like, there should be legislation, because that would, everything Andrew just said makes so much sense. Why in the world is April 1st the deadline? Functionally doesn't make sense.
Well, April 1st is ours, and that's in our local
Okay.
PD plan. April 15th is the statutory thing.
Okay.
So that's what drives it. So so one thing had to lead to the next thing. So in order to get the names to you
Yep.
and follow our PD plan, we had to wrap up all of our supervision by March 31. Could we have conceivably done that earlier? In theory, yes. Practically, I don't know how it would work. I do think there is room for us to take a look at the professional growth evaluation model and potentially look at a different way of doing it, so it's not quite so, and I have to say, I'll use Christina Cochran as an example. She does a fabulous job writing evaluations, but for every one, you're talking a three-plus page narrative for each one, and then when you get into the summatives, you're going through all of those. You're trying to give people really good concrete feedback, and then once you've got the summative done, you then sit with the candidate and talk through strengths and weaknesses, give them a chance to respond. It's bringing closure to it that's the hard part. So in order for me to bring the probationary teachers' names forward, all of that has to be done first. And I have tremendous confidence that the people I'm bringing forward to you are high-quality people that belong here. But I hear you. I certainly could look at 2 phases if it's something the board wanted of. Say, okay, we'll do the continuing contract people who don't have the same strict timelines, and then all the probationary people come at a later meeting.
I mean, I'd hate to put additional burden on the staff to do that if functionally it doesn't really serve us any purpose based on
So maybe my
what
second
our position
question,
is.
maybe my
right?
second question is the first question. What in the world are we doing and voting on it, right? Like,
Well,
outside of, like,
yeah.
it can't be
Yeah.
functionally a rubber stamp, right? Or is it? Let me just say that.
I think technically it is, but it would be worth finding out more. And
I wonder if, I'm sorry.
I was just gonna say, if you think about like last summer, one of the things that we voted on was to give me authority over the summer to do the hiring myself,
Yep.
and without having to bring it to the board. I think the annual renewal is seen in a different category, for reasons I'm not, there may not be a real difference, but I think ultimately it's your authority to be had, and you can choose to delegate it if you want to.
But I think it's statutorily, it's given to us for whatever odd reason.
Yeah.
There's a distinction,
Do we
obviously.
know what RSA that
between,
is?
I
I'd have to look.
would have to look it up.
Could we, I would just, and that's not the discussion that's here
I think it's
today.
89 something.
It's,
that I have to
it's,
look.
I've just, my mind was in the calendar and
Yeah.
this,
Yeah.
and like, when it's like, you gotta do this by this date.
Sure.
Yeah,
It just
it
feels.
No, it makes sense. I hear what you're saying, yeah.
Yeah, it is like 189.14 or something. It deals with all the renewals and
So
everything.
weird. But, all right, great, thank you. Any other discussion on renewals or contracts? All right, next up, we have any correspondence? I've not received any public correspondence. Have you?
I guess the question, would we include staff correspondence in the?
Well, I mean, that's why I said public, because I don't,
I think we've always called it public, but
we do, and
I
I
don't
just
know.
question whether, so we have received correspondence from a staff member.
With concern about the job share
Sure.
policy. That's,
I would feel like talking about that, I would feel more comfortable in non-public talking
Yep.
about that.
ditto.
Yeah, I agree.
But I would like to talk about it.
But the board should know that I did reply to that person, so on the board's behalf.
What did we say?
Just basically that, you know, we continue to support the policies that we've implemented, and we appreciate their service, and they should work through the administration following the policies with any concerns. And thank you. I think I threw a thank you in there. All right. Any other correspondence?
that was the only one.
Okay.
Can we, I don't know if we have a non-public at the end, but can we?
We
talk
do,
about that?
absolutely.
Okay,
We do, and
sweet, thank
we
you.
plan on bringing it. Yep, absolutely. Now that we have everyone in person, we should go over our board organization, or reorganization in this particular case. We have 3 items to discuss in the organization. First up, our committee assignments. Just for, I guess, everyone's sake and the public, there's, roles are the chairperson, vice chair. Those have obviously already been voted on. These, the New Hampshire School Board Association delegate, which for whatever reason is predefined as the vice chair, so Dan was fortunate enough to get that. We have a school board budget committee representative, a school board budget committee alternate representative, 2 policy committee members, school board representative to the Seacoast School of Technology, a district staff development committee representative, board negotiation team representatives for the sports staff, those are 2. Board negotiating team representatives to the teachers union, those are also 2. Capital improvement program committee, and 2 manifest signers, which technically don't have to be assigned, but it's on there anyways. Technically, I think it's supposed to be the chair's prerogative to recommend people to the board for these positions. However, I find it easier just to ask the board what they would rather do. We certainly could keep the positions we've done last year. I can imagine Dan's probably chomping at the bit to get back to the budget committee, having not seen them for a couple of weeks.
Close to 2 months now.
Close to 2 months, oh my goodness.
If
You must
that's
be
what
lost.
everybody wants,
You
then
must be
that's no
lost.
problem.
No, not at all. I was just being facetious. I was just, I guess, lightheartedly pointing out that it may be tiring for some people to return to the existing committee assignments. So that would be understandable if it was.
Well, I can stay on the professional development.
Okay.
I don't mind doing that still.
Everybody cool with that?
Sounds good to me.
And I wouldn't mind being on the NTA,
Which one, I'm sorry?
the teachers.
Okay.
Teacher
Yeah.
one? Okay.
I'm inclined if the board is to stay on the capital improvement committee.
Okay, absolutely.
Now, we need 2 for the CIP? Sorry.
It only
It's
shows
just
one.
one,
I
right?
thought there was maybe an
Just,
alternate, but it's
just
just one.
Phil. And
Yeah, that's what I thought.
There might be an alternate, but I don't think we have one.
Yeah, I don't
Okay.
think we do either. The town council usually has an alternate though, oddly.
Town council does have an alternate.
Yeah, I don't know why we don't.
In fact, their alternate's the one that shows up more. Just happens.
There are more of them than of us.
That is true.
At least normally.
We're outnumbered.
Everything's filled.
Yeah, now they're not.
And I think our meetings are scheduled around people's availability, so an alternate is not generally needed.
Yeah.
Is anyone really excited to be on the budget committee?
Again, I'll keep going with it.
Okay.
If everyone, if nobody else wants to.
I can be the alternate for that, provided you never miss it.
You're a tough negotiator.
Policy committee, you guys in,
What do you think?
I've actually enjoyed it, so.
Yeah, I'm good on it. I just want to make sure that.
Yeah.
I feel like you guys are
Should've
getting,
talked about the last.
getting kind of a rhythm going, so.
Yeah, we just get going.
Yeah. Let's get away from the weather.
Yeah.
I do not mind doing the SST still. I will tell you, if anybody wants to do it, it's actually really enjoyable. It's exciting, but if anybody else would like to do it, you're more than welcome to. It's, they meet on Mondays once a month, maybe every other month, at 4 o'clock down at the SST building. But
When is it again?
4 o'clock on.
Monthly, once a month?
Yeah, once a month. I don't mind continuing doing it. We'd enjoy it. I just don't want to take it from someone else because it's an enjoyable thing to do.
Drama, teachers, PD.
I can do SST as well. It's interesting to me, but if you're really
Oh.
gung ho to do it, then by all means.
No,
Rock, paper, scissors, fifths of the cuss. What do you guys do? Roll dice?
So I will tell you where I'm at. I really enjoy it. I'm going to be sad to give it up, but I will tell you I think it would be good for someone else to also see it too, because it's going to give you a taste of what exactly SST is. The biggest thing coming up there, they do have to come up with a new agreement between all the schools. It doesn't seem like it's going to be an issue at all. More just waiting for the state to create rules, but that's probably going to be the biggest thing that's going to be on the radar coming up. But usually there's a student that presents with what they do at SST, and then usually there's some sort of like budget update, any potential changes on the horizon, and then that's really it. Usually out of there 30, 45 minutes.
I mean, that was my only thing was budget committee, I think, is Monday night as well, but if they're,
Yeah.
if it's short, then that doesn't matter. So,
Okay.
yeah, I can do that.
You want to do it?
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Very cool.
Should we put Andrew as an alternate, even though there isn't a
Yeah.
I
spot
would,
for
yeah,
it?
absolutely.
All right.
I enjoyed also too seeing the other superintendents and the other school board members from the other people, and I always compare ourselves to them. So.
Yeah, are we all much better
Yeah.
looking and
We're
smarter
better,
and
yeah,
faster?
like, yeah.
Dutch Gardner people like us.
Yeah.
Support staff negotiations.
Do we need that?
I know, because that's 3 years, right?
Well, it is, but
Less than, a
if
little
something
less than
comes
3
up,
years. Yeah.
yeah, it's better just to fill it. And we do need another teacher.
Teachers,
union.
yeah. So when's the contract renewal for teachers?
The discussion, you mean?
No,
Oh,
just
the
in
rules next year, right?
The current contract expires in '25.
25.
It's a 3-year contract.
So we wouldn't start it until next
So the negotiation of the new agreement
Right.
would be during the 24-25 school year. So you'd want to have it ready.
Yeah.
You'd probably want to start it summer of '24 through the fall, so you have a contract by October
Okay.
24.
So I've voiced interest to being the other person on the team with with the teachers negotiations. Part of me though too wonders if we should have the chair be on there, just because it is probably.
There's no gravitas here.
No, but I was thinking like as representative of the board, if, I don't know how you guys feel. If you feel like Gary would be better in symbolically, or me. I'm not gonna take it one way or the other.
I don't think it's like I think Gary would do a great job. I saw him at the support, the paraeducators one. But I don't think it has to be the chair.
No, I kind of feel like someone who can maybe speak the same language and been through the same sort of experiences as you have might be a lot more beneficial.
Yeah,
Especially given the narrow scope of the discussion.
Yeah.
Be happy to.
Great. And then, Phil, do you want to do sports staff with me
I'm
again?
fine to stay on that. We'll
Should
hopefully
anything-
not have to talk about it.
Anything ever come up? And then 2 manifest signers, which isn't technically a thing, but I'll certainly do it. And Amy, do you want to?
So why do we do it then?
I don't know, because it's helpful, I think it's helpful for Teresa and the rest of the board to know that when they send out an email, oh, these 2 folks are going to do it unless they're out of town and say they can or something.
Yeah.
Or Gary keeps forgetting
They
to
have
do
to have
it.
2 people sign, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess so.
I mean, it doesn't,
I wish I had a schedule, they could type up the schedule and say.
it was
this is-
helpful when they sent out the reminder calendar.
Well, I'm, the day ahead, like if you're out of town, like I don't keep that on my calendar,
Yeah.
so in the past few months, it's kind of been like a, you know, pain, whatever. I'll do it, fine, yeah.
Okay. And I'll actually talk to Teresa, maybe we can get that scheduled or something.
Yeah,
The
but
alternate.
it's pretty darn cyclical. I mean,
Yeah, it is.
Right, but
Be on our school board
it
calendar.
should be on a calendar though, like just not, I hate getting an email the day before saying I need you here by 4.
Right.
If
Yeah.
I'm going out of town, or not that I'm always going out of town, but it's
She's
just,
a traveling
Yeah.
person.
you know what I mean? I like to have it in my calendar and
Your
keep track
day,
of it.
It's something you have to organize into your
Right,
day.
exactly.
All right, so for Jean's assistance, or to help Jean out, chair is obviously me, vice chair is Dan, school budget committee representative is Dan Smith, alternate budget Gary Swanson, policy committee is Phil and Andrew, school board representative, school board, oh my gosh, SST rep Dan and Andrew is an alternate. Professional development is Amy. New Hampshire School Board Association delegate Dan. Board negotiation team for sports staff Gary and Phil. Capital Improvement Committee Phil. Manifest signers Gary and Amy. And negotiating for the team for the teachers union Amy and Andrew. That was easy. All right, next. I assume the board doesn't have any issues with those assignments? All right, since we did just discuss it. We've talked about changing the meeting location to maybe emphasize our schools a little bit to the community and give people a chance to come in. And obviously the crowds that come in now, it would be good to have a bigger auditorium to fit them. Does anyone have any thoughts about maybe going to either the junior high, excuse me, the cafetorium or the elementary school? It strikes me that the cafetorium probably has a better media coverage.
Yeah, I would say
however-
so.
I mean, what does the,
However, parking, I would
what,
think we'd better.
have
to
we
elementary,
tried out
yeah.
about AV? Like what?
Yeah, I mean, Tim Cremens is like, he can make whatever work, he just needs enough time, 30, 40 minutes to set up prior, so that's not an issue. I mean, certainly, both the cafetoriums at the 2 schools are all wired and have projectors and all of that stuff, so it's relatively easy to do. Talk to Dave Riley, his people just need to know that they're setting it up, and just like any event, they'll reserve everything as needed, and get things in place. I mean, we had talked a little bit about, do we do it like rotate schools, or, you know, and I know there's concern about confusing people by moving it from
Yeah.
one place to the other.
That's a good point.
And we could always, do 6 months at one school and switch it around or something, But either way, all of those options are fine. Dave Riley said, that would be awesome, great, just let me know, we'll do it. Tim Cremens, same thing, just, I think it's whatever we want to do, basically.
Yeah.
Will it-
In favor of it.
Yeah, I am too, just, I guess, a little concerned about, I don't want Patty to have to drive over there to set things up, but maybe we can take our placards home in a bag or something, I can bring them home, or just to make things smoother.
Yeah, certainly, yeah, there's a little bit of a logistical piece there, but,
It would be nice to have the schools open.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like having those schools.
Yeah.
I'm agnostic as to which one, but I do think that having the consistency would be good for the public, because it won't always be like this.
Yeah, strikes me at the elementary school parking is a tiny bit easier because it's a little closer for people who maybe have difficult times.
Good point.
So maybe we start with the elementary school for
Yeah.
6 months and see how it
Yeah.
goes, sort of thing.
Yeah.
All right, should we do that? Next meeting's the 20th. Is that
I'm
enough
gonna-
time, or do you want?
Well, why don't, just to be sure I can get it right, how about if we do the first meeting in May, we do it at the elementary
Perfect.
school?
Okay.
That's exciting. We do need to have a goal setting meeting, which would probably be part of our retreat. I was talking with Todd about trying to figure out some kind of better frequency for retreats, and I was thinking maybe if we just have it be the second Saturday after, excuse me, the first Saturday after the second school board meeting, new school board meeting. newly appointed. That
what-
might be, going forward, it might be a way to,
Wait, what month?
The first
I'm
Saturday
sorry.
after the
second school board meeting. So once we have an election, we have two school
Oh,
board meetings.
okay, you didn't say what month though, so I'm like so
Yeah,
confused.
yeah, exactly. Unless it's a Tuesday and,
My only concern with that would be like, it's like this, that would be this Saturday, correct?
I don't-
I'm not saying
not
it'd be
now,
Saturday,
yeah, but
like
technically-
given this time of year, like it's a holiday for some people and some people might not be here that weekend.
it's
It's
a
like,
good point when it happens to fall on a holiday.
Yeah. and I know that's a like movable holiday.
Yeah, but we do want to do it very, very early.
Yeah.
Well, we can talk about that at our retreat. Figuring out some kind of better schedule,
But I,
more reliable
100%
schedule.
with having it early.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely earlier.
Yeah, but it'd be nice to be able to a reliable kind of time going forward. Does everybody? Well, I guess what would work best for you during the week? I would presume for you and the staff, or
I
when
guess,
did we do it last time?
you know, last time it was a weekday, we went to, it was in July, it was a weekday,
Yeah, it was a
Oh, that's
weekday.
right.
which clearly, I mean, obviously, my staff works Monday through Friday, so it's easier from that perspective, but I also am cognizant of the fact that you all have jobs outside of your role on the board, and so maybe a Saturday morning, I don't think that would be problematic if we just gave people enough advance warning and kind of planned out what we wanted to do.
How long is the retreat normally?
Well, normally we did the one.
The one time.
We did the one time that I was involved here, it was about 6 hours,
Yeah, that
give or
was nice.
take.
Yeah.
I guess to some extent it's dependent on the agenda we set. And I know there are specific conversations as a board you want to have around goals. It also probably around superintendent evaluation, those conversations around that, meetings structure and how you want
Yeah.
that to work. So I don't know, half a day maybe?
Yeah, maybe we could kind of have the staff come and look for the first half of the retreat, so they can at least enjoy part of the day or whatever.
So are we talking like 6 hours again, you think, or?
We probably should assume 6 hours.
6
And
hours.
if we can get out early, we can.
Yeah.
I think we might need a little less time this year, given that we all know each other pretty
Yeah.
well at this point, but yeah, I wouldn't want to short it either.
Didn't feel excruciatingly long last time, so.
You know,
Are Saturdays gonna be harder? Like I understand why everyone has day jobs, but is there also is it harder to do it on a weekend because people have family obligations? and
It
stuff?
doesn't matter to me. I'm usually fairly available either, or can make myself available.
Could we, I wonder even if we could do, like if I'm right to remember, the meetings don't have a whole lot of meat to them for the next, like, few weeks, is that right?
You're talking about?
These meetings?
Yeah.
I mean, there's not a lot of big decisions to be made, fingers crossed, other than, you know, some approvals of things. Yeah, so we could consider, you're thinking like carve out a chunk of time at some
Well,
of
I
these
wonder
meetings.
instead of just having like a regular board meeting, we just divide it up into 2 3-hour meetings in the evening.
Do that as well.
Interesting thought.
I will tell you that I've used my 2 personal days for other school board stuff already this year, so I have no more personal days, so.
talk to your principal about that.
So you're saying you prefer, if not in the evenings, Saturday would be
Yeah,
better?
I would have to take a day without pay.
I would do a Saturday. I was just asking the question.
Sure. Yeah, it doesn't,
Yeah, same, a Saturday is always gonna be a little easier for me, so.
I have no preference.
I have no preference.
Would you rather
Yeah.
cut it up or do it Saturday?
I have no preference, I just can't,
I'd rather just do it all.
Well, you can't do it during
I feel
the
like
week.
the
You'd have to
momentum
do
would
it in
be
the
lost.
afternoon or Saturday.
I would have to do it after 4 o'clock or on a Saturday.
So do we think having a continuous meeting is more efficient?
Yes, I do.
You have this restart cost of getting your head back into it.
Yeah.
And getting into,
It looks like we're looking at a Saturday or Sunday. I assume Sunday's probably less preferred than a Saturday.
Yes.
Saturday.
Well, that was easy. Now we just do the hard part, find a date. Assuming this Saturday's out.
It would be hard to pull it together
Market
that
Easter
week.
hunt.
You know, oh, you're gonna be gone. April
Well,
break, right?
yeah, I'm expecting to be out of town
Okay.
for April break, yeah.
Oh,
As well you should.
yes.
So it would either be the 15th, would be 2 weeks from now, or when I get
Do
into
the
May.
15th.
15th.
The 15th of April.
I can't do the
Maybe 2
15th.
weeks, would it?
Well, it'd be, yeah, 9, you're right, it's less than 2 weeks, a week and a half.
That would be a very short time for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You just said you can't
I
do
can't do that
It would be
anyways.
It's a moot point.
Yeah.
Yeah, oh, good, I'm problem solved. So we're really looking at May.
The 22nd's off.
Well, that's the first Saturday of the April break, and
Okay.
at least for me, I'm on an airplane at that point.
So we're talking May 6th at the earliest. I am pathetically open every single weekend day. So,
Yeah, once May is here, I'm wide open.
Yeah, same with me. Well, actually, wait, there's one weekend I'm away in May. That.
12. Okay, I'm taking her. I'd say that, oh, sorry.
Sorry, go ahead.
The 20th is out for me.
Yeah, same, I'm away that weekend.
So it's the 6th and the 13th, really. As of right now, either of those works for me.
I think the 6th would be a good one because it's early.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm right back from break. Okay.
all right, so tentatively say 9, 8:30?
Yeah, like a 9 to 3 type thing. I would assume we want, I mean, I guess the question is, do you want to do it at an alternate venue? Although it might be harder to get an alternate venue on a Saturday. So we might need to do it with our own facilities, but I'm assuming we'd want some breakfast and some lunch, and we'd just spend the day going through a bunch of things.
I suspect where we had it last year would be open upstairs again, but,
All right.
because of staffing, but that may make it more challenging for us to even be there.
Yeah.
But I thought that worked out really well last year. I'm
Okay.
fine with
I'll
any
tell you
of
what,
our-
I'll have Patty explore it and see if it's an option.
I guess if we were gonna do anywhere outside of our own facilities, I'd just like it to be in town, like we did last year.
Yeah,
That
keep the
is nice.
taxpayers' money.
Yeah. So,
You want to do this for 6 hours?
Oh, that's my idea of a good
You know, I think bring it right down the policy for the school board rep.
and actually that may,
I'm sure that'll take all 6.
yeah, and that may actually help and, entice some more people to be interested in it, so.
It's true. It's your graduation gift from us.
All right, cool. Thank you, everyone.
Do this Saturday after graduation.
That's what
Oh, even better.
That's when we could do it.
She won't be getting home till 6 in the morning though. So she won't be.
We wouldn't be starting until 9.
Yeah. Just go right there. All right, great. Thanks, everyone. Next up, we have superintendent contract renewal. It's kind of a two parts to this. There is the negotiation of a new contract with Todd, which I feel like probably should start sooner rather than waiting until June.
Yes.
Right? And then the second part is determining what the process for renewal evaluation would be. I know you guys have already, Amy and Andrew already put some work towards this, and certainly should work with Todd. And my only, as I've said before, is just to make sure we have some, like, my largest interest is to ensure we have some community, public, feedback.
So when Amy and I met with Todd, and then we typed up that kind of calendar to show everyone, we talked about how after the school board elections in March, the next step would be to create like a committee of different stakeholders to just talk to Todd about, and then from there share thoughts of the committee. If we go that route, my interest is I would like to do it sooner rather than later, for a number of reasons, but I just want to make sure we get moving on it. Do we want to go the route with the committee still?
I'm good with it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the next question is, how do we form a committee? Do we ask Patty to send out an email to the public to see if there's any volunteers that would like to participate?
Yeah, I think first we need to decide what constituencies we'd want on the committee, but then, certainly some emails.
So what constituencies do we want?
Well, certainly the general public, but I think it might be useful to have some staff, if that's appropriate, to get some input.
Is it conventional to have staff on a superintendent search committee?
Yeah.
Or not a search committee, I'm sorry, contract renewal, which I think is different
I mean,
than the
this is
search.
a little different.
Yeah.
So I think you're in a different place because while I very much appreciate the relationship we formed, you didn't have the same kind of hiring process to bring me in, and I think you're kind of I think you're
between
erring
the
on
two.
the side of being a little bit more rigorous to make sure people have a chance to weigh in.
It's like a hybrid between a search,
Right.
like a
Yeah.
contract renewal and a search committee.
Right, so really, it's like, I'm assuming where we were going was whoever this committee becomes, there would be a process where an interview, or however you want to call it, where we would talk and they could collect input and make some kind of a determination, almost like you would if you were opening it up for a full vetting process, so you could feel in the end, all the stakeholders had a chance to weigh in and feel confident it's the right choice for Newmarket.
I think this is a very weird situation because, it's not like a pool that we have to weed through. Like, we already have an individual, and I know, I don't want to speak for you, but I'm very happy and I'm very excited for the future of my kids' education in Newmarket with Todd at the wheel. The question is, there was no community or stakeholder input when we did the hiring last summer. So do we do that, and then what purpose does it serve? I
Right.
would just hate to
It's going to change
have
things.
people spend their time.
For me, it's a lot, it's analogous to Dan's position, right?
Okay,
We appointed him last term.
okay.
Now, he ran for office and the public got a chance to weigh in on their thoughts. I think we would have just reappointed him again, but that wouldn't be fair to the public, nor legal. So there's always that. So to me, it's really just like Todd said, giving those other people a chance to contribute and make sure we're getting their feedback. I
How
mean,
do
he
we-
may run around the school like smacking people and we have no idea.
How do we, I see where Andrew's coming from, right? Like,
Oh, yeah,
it's
it's
not
okay.
like, pull everyone together to have a conversation, which is, I'm sure would be a great conversation, but what's their input gonna be? Is it gonna be on the structure of the contract? Is it gonna be on the should we or should we not renew the contract? What's the decision that they're helping impact?
You can't just form a committee without telling them what you expect from
Yeah.
them. What is the question we're tasking them to
Right.
answer?
And I think it would be very similar to as if we were looking for a new superintendent. Does this person you know, are they well-spoken? Do they represent not necessarily well-spoken, but do they represent what the community is looking for? I mean, in Todd's case, there obviously is going to be, how has he performed so far sort of thing a little bit. It's going to seep in.
So
just
like,
de facto.
I'm all for community input, like on everything. But is there a different vehicle we could use for community input that doesn't? Because
Maybe.
my concern, I'm just gonna say out there, like, you know, like you buy something and you get some survey, like fill out the survey. The only people that fill out the survey are people that either absolutely love it or have an axe to grind against the company that they sold it to. And like, how are we gonna bring unbiased cross-section of the community to this conversation? Not that I think anyone's an expert, frankly. But
There's no
like,
way
still,
you're not going to get them biased, right? There's no way.
Yeah,
because
no, I mean,
unless there's someone who just moved to
unknown
town.
quantity, if it was like a true
Yeah,
like,
then you would.
search
but,
committee.
But it's not.
So that's
So
what I'm
unless
thinking. How do
someone
we get
just moved to town.
a broad voice then? Because
Yeah.
the bias gets worked out in the mean. The
Yeah.
So here's my thing. So I feel like I could tell I have been in the process of like where I've had superintendent people, not nominees, but like people running for superintendent positions in the districts that I worked at, where they like sat on stage and like, and there were two things you looked at. Like one was like, is this a good person that would run the district well? And the other one is do they have a vision for the district that coincides with the community wants? I think we are very lucky in the fact that we have found out that Todd is excellent at running this district. The question now is like the vision, and I know what Todd's vision is. I don't think the rest of the community does, just because he hasn't had the opportunity to share it. So the question is a committee the right way, or is it just like a Q&A about the future of the district? But if we're going to do a Q&A with the community, then how do we get
that's a
feedback?
very good point.
Yeah.
Well, let me ask this: if a committee came back, right now we're all agreed we would rehire him in an instant. If a committee came back and said, we really don't think he's the right person, we've had some concerns with some of his answers, and I feel like Newmarket really wants to go in this direction, would we rethink at all? Would we take that into consideration and rethink?
we shouldn't ask for community input if we wouldn't.
Well,
Right.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. So for me, I would definitely take that in consideration and find it important as part of my decision-making process. Whereas a Q&A, I don't think I would. I think for that, we're just basically saying, this is our guy. Ask him some questions if you want to.
But he's our guy, and we want their input on whether he should remain our guy. Is what I think we're saying.
But is a Q&A giving the input?
That's I think what Andrew's getting to. Like that's how we get the dialogue. Then how do we get the feedback?
I mean,
Yeah.
you could do something similar to what we're going to do with the assistant principals, where you have an event where people are invited and they can ask whatever questions they want and so forth, and then there's some kind of a feedback form that everybody who's there, it's like an exit ticket to leave. You know, there could be some rating scales that you create or whatever, and then everybody who comes gives you that information, and then you or a subgroup of the board tallies that up and determines if there's
I like
something
that.
there.
That's a nice compromise.
I like you get a broad cross section. And you don't have to go through the bureaucracy of a committee, which is going to have like 4 meetings to have that one conversation. It's only going to be like so many voices.
It's another reason he's a good superintendent.
Are you
I can figure out ways to get me hired.
are you comfortable with that? On that route?
I mean, in some ways, I mean, to be honest, I like our vision of a graduate event was we were inviting people to come in and let's talk about what we want for, I mean, that is the same kind of avenue we're talking about. So am I comfortable talking to the community about what I think? Absolutely. Does the community agree with what I think? We'll find out. But just as a general thing, my feelings are not going to be hurt no matter what happens. So know that what I would rather have you guys do is err on the side of openness and transparency and give people the opportunity to give you whatever input it is, even if it's negative stuff. You need to hear it so you can decide, is that smoking gun something that you want to reconsider?
So maybe we solicit it in a few different ways. We could do a survey, we could do this committee, or not committee, excuse me,
Don't say committee.
forum, meet and
Yeah.
greet,
I would
pony
survey-
show, I'm not sure what to call it.
I would survey the staff too.
Yeah, absolutely, I think we should.
I'd like, honestly, the constructive criticism is the only way to get better. Like any feedback that's negative, it helps us get better.
It sends
So-
trepidation.
Oh, no. I just, in the back of my mind is, I'm always a negative Nelly. So my
Really?
thing-
Sorry, Andrew.
No,
I had to do that.
Very fair, and I always said, hope for the best, prepare for the worst. What is like, I think we found out that like there's not a whole lot of options for superintendents in New Hampshire, and we are blessed with a very good one that has a very good reputation in New Hampshire. If there is a situation where people say, don't make the recommendation that we want, like, are we willing to accept that, knowing that there really isn't much
Well, I
alternative?
mean, that's gotta be part of your calculus, right? Like, if we found out he was mediocre, and then we're like, there's nobody. And I'm gonna lean towards mediocre.
I don't think we're being Pollyannish about the performance of the superintendent. I think we know,
Yeah.
we're all in the community.
This
I
is
think we
just
are,
really, I
like-
think, being transparent, and giving the community the
absolutely
chance
need
to
to be.
contribute that they didn't
100%.
get before because of the situation we were in.
Okay.
I'd be
And there's
shocked.
gonna be surveys you're gonna throw out, because you're gonna get junk on both ends. And it's the middle that you need to really.
So just so I get this to understand, this is clear in my head, we're gonna have a Q&A with the stakeholders. Ross, why don't just like send an email out so we can see who shows up. At that Q&A or afterwards, there'll be just a general survey to stakeholders to get input. Then we'll have the board look through those surveys and reflect, and then make a
That's the
decision
key.
from that.
Who's doing the aggregating of all that data?
So it seems to me that a subcommittee to maybe create the surveys and probably aggregate the data, I guess it could be a different group, of fairness, would make sense, because we can't all do that efficiently.
Yeah, I mean, if we want to be super, make sure that everything is above board and appropriate as can be, you just put some sort of lockbox on the way out where people
Yep.
drop their survey tickets in,
Get
Todd,
Terry
being
into-
the subject of said survey, obviously doesn't have the key to the lock.
Yeah.
Probably one of us does. We, after everyone's come and gone, we collect it, we tally it, we, summarize the feedback. I think Andrew had I believe it was Andrew or Gary had a good point. You're gonna probably pick the four or some percentage of the worst outliers in every direction,
Yep.
in both directions, and sort of exclude them. And all right, what does the median opinion look like?
So we're gonna have them do a survey that night, then they're also getting a survey in the mail, we
think-
suggested, so we have to
Yeah.
figure that out,
It
too.
seems like you would do a survey, more of a survey, right? In the mail to the, or
More
to
like
email to the
feedback on
teachers
the night.
and the community, but then during that, I think kind of a feedback card
Right,
where you just say.
right, so we
here's
wanna be
10
Not
clear.
lines.
the same as the survey.
Yeah, here's 10
Right.
lines, write in your thoughts,
Yeah.
concerns,
Some more
whatever
open-ended
feedback you want us to
thoughts.
have,
All right.
yeah.
Question.
Sure.
Is this anonymous, or are people gonna put their names on it?
Um,
Because it doesn't work if it's anonymous. If you're, somebody's gonna respond 8 times, I can feel it.
In the
form?
forum.
No, in the what you send out
Oh.
through email.
Can't you? That's a good question.
Yeah,
But if it's not anonymous, some of the staff are gonna feel probably uncomfortable.
We sent 2 different surveys, one to the staff and one to
We-
there's 2 different links, right? It aggregates the different.
We can do whatever we want, we're on board.
Whatever we
we can
want.
do
No,
whatever
we-
technology will allow.
We can't
us.
change the April 15th.
We're all rich.
So we're talking about a Google form? That,
I
To
don't
the
know,
survey
whether
that,
survey
Alteryx,
must be
I
a
think,
Google form or
survey
whatever.
like any of the survey
Yeah.
platforms.
okay.
Maybe we're overthinking this. Maybe
I
we should
know,
just
probably.
decide what direction
That's-
we're going and then agree we're gonna work out the technical.
Yeah, thank you.
All right,
The subcommittee
do
works
that.
out the technical aspects of it.
Yeah.
So my question is, when are we gonna get all this stuff done?
Well, by June, so,
By
so we
June.
can make a decision.
That's not a lot of time.
And I think you're gonna want to get it done before the end of school.
Mhm.
You're
Oh,
gonna just
absolutely.
lose people.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a rare circumstance where people wanna think about this over the summer. I mean, we do, but that's our job.
I'd say like the second or third week in May.
We're not talking about sending out a survey of like 15 questions,
Right,
right? This is
right.
gonna be like a
No, no, no,
very
God,
short,
no.
like,
Well, but I guess it's gonna start with, if we're gonna do a Q&A, we have to have a date to do that. Like, obviously, it's gonna be based on Todd's calendar. My preference.
But that could be in May.
Do a survey before that?
Either, I don't know if it matters. You could do a
enough time to
survey,
get the word out to the community.
you could do a survey and include the fact that we're gonna have a forum, a Q&A session or whatever. I don't know.
Really, all you
It's
need
beginning of
to
April.
do is make sure the input you're gonna collect is done by the end of the school year.
Yeah.
Like, my contract says in August, we will,
Yeah,
so
True.
you don't have to, as
Yeah.
long as you have given people the opportunity to give that feedback, if it takes you a little longer to sort through it and be ready to make a decision, if it's July or August, that's okay. It's
Yeah.
just, I think you just wanna take advantage of when people are available to give you input. Because I will tell you, last summer when I did my meet and greets, there was some lovely people who came, but I didn't get a double-digit crowd at any of them.
Yeah, that's the other thing I was thinking.
Yeah.
Like, are we really gonna get
We may have to have food again.
calling through a dozen comments?
Yeah.
So, like, do you wanna aim for like end of April? Oh, no, we run into spring break.
Next week.
Um,
What if the survey went out in April, right?
Okay.
Yeah, because it could be
Email
done whenever.
survey in April. We use the results of that to help figure out what the questions will be, or help guide the prompts that will go into the May sometime form.
Yeah, I mean, even the first week of May, you could send the survey out, because you don't want to give people plenty of time to create it,
Yeah.
people back, and then that can include the fact that there's going to be a Q&A.
When we have surveys, how long do we keep them out for?
Yeah, actually, you don't want them out that long.
You know, does it- not,
You know, like
not
a
too
week,
short, but
a
not too
week or
long.
less,
Okay.
really. You generally, particularly if it's an email survey, it's going right to people.
You're gonna get 90% of your responses
The
in the
first-
first 48
Yeah.
hours.
True.
okay, so what are the questions gonna be on the survey?
It's for the committee. Who wants to be on the committee?
Are we forming a committee with just board members, or are we gonna bring in other stakeholders?
I think we have a
survey?
committee
Yeah, I
just
think-
for the survey.
Yeah.
Okay.
Board.
yeah.
What are we looking for in the survey? Just general, broad ideas.
Just feedback on Todd, I think.
Do you like Todd, yes or no?
Is he a nice guy? Have you ever met
All
him?
those things are before things.
Yeah.
Something like that.
I mean, no more than 5 questions.
Oh, yeah, that's
And-
even a lot,
And it
probably.
really is, do you like Todd or not? It's just you're probably gonna break it down across some number of fairly large dimensions.
Yeah, like performance, right? Like how's Todd performed? Give him a Likert, like 1 to 5.
Yeah, do you-
Potential, like what's potential to continue to
Yeah,
lead
is it-
this
do you-
Newmarket in the future,
yeah.
and then like open-ended comments.
Is he accessible to the community? Has he given you a clear vision?
Did you like the food? and-
Yeah, was the pizza good?
Do you
Yeah, that-
support the continuation of Todd? Like
Yeah,
something
stuff like
very
that, and then
but like
a feedback
super
sections if people want to use it.
Yeah, I think that's, 5 is good number, and Gary, you said some good things, accessible,
I hope there's recording this.
well, I'm writing it down. Clear vision,
Well, I guess who wants to be the subcommittee? I could certainly help.
I'll do it.
I'm very happy to write questions. I just don't know if I can fit another meeting on my schedule.
Well, I don't think it'd have to be a meeting. I think you could do this by email, right?
If you're a committee, yeah.
All right, technically.
I can do it as well. I've got 5.
What do you mean, Dan?
So do you want to form a committee, or do you want to task a member to come up with questions and send to the group?
I think task,
The
That
latter.
sounds
The
great.
latter sounds
Task.
and then that would allow us to give them feedback.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I already have 3 questions.
Yeah, this is
I mean,
not
this
going
is-
to take.
A
very-
committee is
Yeah.
going to be a whole thing.
All right.
Yeah,
So my only question is, how are we gonna differentiate specifically that these questions are about Todd and not about my experience with my kid at the school?
You just gotta word it as best you can, but
Okay.
the reality of sending out a survey is people are
gotta
gonna
get junk.
answer the question they wanna answer.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
that's the perils of,
Okay, and then we'll all see the questions before they're sent out to the public, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, like, Phil suggested having somebody just create them, send them out for input.
Awesome.
So who's gonna create them for input? Oh, the two of you? Wait, perfect, even better.
And this is different than when when we talked with Amy and me, are you okay with this?
Yep.
Okay.
And then does someone want to work with Todd to discuss his contract, potential contract?
Discuss what? I'm sorry.
His potential contract. So we talked about starting contract negotiations earlier. It doesn't have to be now, but
I would feel comfortable if you did, because you've already done
Yeah.
1, 2.
it took about 5 minutes, and I can't say I was a very good negotiator, but that's fine. I could do it. He brought me a cup of coffee, and it was over. All right, I'll do that. That's fine.
Talk about fundamentally changing the structure there. Just
Yeah,
not working
no
like a 3-day work
food,
week.
no food during negotiations.
Okay.
Okay, that's fine. I don't mind doing that. Awesome. Great. Well, thank you. That took a little while, but I think we came to a really good place.
Do you talk about superintendent evaluation real quick?
Sure.
So I said a very broad question. Part of the thing that Amy and I met with Todd about was the evaluation policy and how, not just Todd, but just in the future, what we're gonna do. My general question is, do you want to continue that with just tasking that with 1 or 2 committee members, or do we want to tackle that in the policy committee?
I kind of feel like you guys did a great start, but the policy committee's really where it should lie because it's a policy.
I think we were agnostic to either, again, during the meeting. It's just like, are we gonna continue that committee? Or like, is it gonna be either way? I mean, half of the group's the same person.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
I would prefer it in the policy meetings, because I think it's definitely need to get done, and I think it's,
Yeah.
yeah.
There's already established meetings to work on.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I don't think there's gonna be a whole big thing that we need to do, so.
Yeah. Great. All right, we are moving on to public comment. I will open the floor to public comment for some reason at 6:17, because I'm a stickler. And seeing absolutely no one here, I will close the floor at 6:17. Can we get some of the staff to come in and just fill chairs, just like they do with the Grammys or whatever? All right, we're on to action items. Do have one correction to make. There was an oversight by me when we had the non-public meeting for the discussion about reopening contract negotiations with the teachers union. We should not have had a non-public. It should have been a non-meeting. However, we did have a non-public, so because of that, and we did take notes, I feel like we should maintain those notes, even though they weren't necessarily the correct process.
This should have been a non-meeting.
Yeah, any, Todd can correct me, but any
We
negotiations?
ran it by council in terms of negotiations, and that's not, negotiation conversations are not covered under the right to know law, so.
That's why we're having such trouble finding the.
Right,
Yeah,
that's why
exactly.
so all the negotiations mentioned are related to legal things, and it doesn't cover contracts.
Non-meeting.
So, but because we did have a non-meeting and we did take minutes, I feel like we should maintain those, even though they're,
We had a non-public and we took minutes.
excuse me, thank you very much, a non-public meeting and took minutes. I feel like we should maintain those. I do have one correction on the non-public minutes. We can go over those in a second. Actually, I do have correction on the public meeting minutes as well. So I would seek a motion to approve the March 23rd non-public and public meeting minutes.
So moved.
Second.
Smith. Lazaro, Lazaro and H. On page 4, very first page, once I can get back to it, come on.
They're not numbered.
Well, in the presentation packet, it's the first page, which happens to be page 4 in my thing. We just need to add that we did have a roll call vote. Todd had a roll call vote to allow Amy to participate remotely. That needs to be added because that occurred. The only other correction I had, or maybe clarification is a better term, is within the non-public, very thorough non-public minutes. However, they didn't include what we discussed, so we need to add that, I guess somewhere under, I'm not sure where we go in the non-public meeting minutes, but maybe after the reason for the meeting, that we just have a discussion regarding reopening teacher contract negotiations. So we just need to have that added in.
In place of the word specific statutory reason.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Actually, yeah, I had not caught that, so thank you. Well, it's odd because the reason's already stated below. So, yeah.
I mean, it's stating,
It's saying the incorrect RSA. Yeah, so it basically should say that it was Phil made a motion to move to non-public session pursuant to RSA 91A3 2E to discuss reopening contract negotiations with the teachers union. That's what it should say. Can you pass that along, or should I write that up?
can we approve the public minutes, not the non-public minutes, and get them fixed?
Sure, absolutely. Yep. Let's seek to have you revise your motion.
Yeah, I move to approve the public minutes of the.
Dan made the motion, actually.
Sorry.
Sorry.
Yeah, I accept the friendly amendment.
And I accept it as well as a second.
All right. So it's, with that motion on the table, any more discussion on the public minutes? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving them, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And those are approved. We will hold off on the non-public minutes until they've been revised. We have a manifest kicking around somewhere. Someone would like to read that off?
Manifest.
I don't have the donation.
Doing this,
Do we have some?
I would make a motion to approve the manifest in the amount of $1,040,052.75.
Second.
Motion by Dan, second by Phil.
Question, do
Question,
we need
Mike.
a separate motion on this $190.92 that is not?
Yeah, why don't we,
total?
would you mind amending it to include those additional
Well, yeah.
monies?
Also, $190.92 that was on a separate document from the rest, from the cover sheet of the manifest.
So we have the motion and a second on the floor. Any discussion about the manifest? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Moving right along, we do have some personnel matters. We've discussed renewal of certified staff. We do have a couple unfortunate resignations leaving us. Those are in the board packet, as well as a request for a non-paid leave within the New Hampshire, or excuse me, within the Newmarket Sports Staff Association. Any non-paid days need to be approved by the board once they've used up their days off. So we do have a request for one day from a member for April 21st, I believe it is.
And I would recommend approving it.
And Tom would recommend.
There's an approval of donations,
Uh,
actually.
there-
They're old, is that wrong?
I think
We
it
don't
was
have
just
any.
carried
I
over.
didn't think
yeah.
that would, yeah, okay.
Yeah. There's a couple things that have been kind of lingering along from various agendas that we need to clean up that I'll talk to Todd about.
So do you want a motion?
I do.
I move that Newmarket School Board approve the certified staff renewals as presented.
Second.
Do you guys want to do those together or separately? There's resignations, renewals, and
Oh,
leave.
sorry.
That's fine.
Can I do the personnel matters as a slate?
Sure. I would actually love you to.
I amend my motion to approve the personnel matters, approval of certified staff renewals, acceptance of resignations, and acceptance of leave requests as presented.
And I still second.
That's the most amendments to motions we've ever had. All right, any discussion on those personnel matters? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving those, please say aye.
Aye.
And those pass. And I think that is it. We're gonna end it to non-public, and I'm gonna try to get the right reason this time, which I should have done, I apologize, before this meeting started.
Are there multiple reasons for this one, or is it just one?
I think they're,
No,
oh, we're gonna
There's
have
only-
the other, yep.
there's only one reason for the non-public.
Yep, so I'd seek a motion, which is what we, gosh, I just lost what it was.
Discuss personnel matters that,
I moved to
Yeah.
enter non-public session under RSA 91, A3 to C.
Yeah.
Matters that are discussed in the public would be harmful to reputation.
Thank you for keeping me in line. So we have a motion,
I'll do a second.
second by Andrew. By roll call vote, Phil Nazaro,
Aye.
Amy Tilton,
Aye.
Dan Smith,
Aye.
Gary Swanson, aye. Andrew Hammaker.
Aye.
All right, with that, we're in non-public.